Hey guys, so this video is going to be 5 ways in which you can start your yoga practice. I came into my practice with quite an unconventional kind of method or approach, but I just wanted to offer a bunch of different ways that you can come into your own practice, as we are all individual and we all have different needs. So here we go. So the first way that you can start your practice is by attending a class in person. Now obviously this depends on where you are, what studios that are available to you, whether they offer beginner style classes, a style that you're comfortable with, whether it's financially accessible as well. But see and do some research in your local area if there are any studios, because there's a lot to say about attending a class in person. You've obviously got that real life instruction from a teacher. They can be there to watch your form, correct you if you need, and just bring you into more awareness of your body. So in so many respects, it's there's a lot to be gained from that. Maybe as well, if it is accessible to you, get in touch with a teacher and maybe do one-to-one sessions, so at least you build up a foundational understanding of your yoga practice in terms of the asana, otherwise known as the poses. Yeah, so that's sort of the main way that you can get into it as well. But obviously in this weird time with COVID, that's another consideration as well. But also a lot of places, particularly in Brighton, we've got Brighton Yoga Foundation, and they do a lot of community-based classes, so donation-based classes, or they are free classes. So if finance is something that you do struggle with, that can be something as well to attend to, because at the end of the day, yoga should be accessible for everyone. Number 2, because we are in this weird COVID world, everything is obviously moved online, and there are so many free online resources out there. Obviously on YouTube, number 1. So we've got Yoga with Adriene, and she's got obviously such a massive backlog of videos and content and classes that you can do and practice. I know there's so many beginner style classes as well, just to get you familiar with the practice, the names of the poses, the breath work as well. So definitely check that out, or obviously, the tons of other content that's out there. I do classes as well, but I don't have such an extensive backlog. But yeah, if you didn't want to practice on YouTube, I know there's a bunch of different online platforms that you can go to and use. One that I've used in the past, which is called Udaya. I will link them in the description. They were really, really good. It was quite cheap as well per month, and you got access to such a whole host and variety of different teachers from across the globe as well, which was really, really special. But there's also loads of apps as well. I think there's one called Alo Moves and DownDog. So yeah, have a little look-see. Number 3, and this is how I got into my yoga practice in that weird unconventional way. I joined Instagram 6.5 years ago, and I just started following loads and loads of yogis. At the time, Instagram was mainly just photos, so I would see these photos of these beautiful poses, and all I wanted to do was try replicate them. So I figured out, how do I get into it? How do I hold it? How do I then get out of the pose? Eventually, I had built up quite a backlog of postures in my own personal practice. I use that as a foundation to then sort of create a flow. So that was my introduction to yoga through Instagram, through social media. So my advice with that is use Instagram as a source of inspiration, but also be mindful of the content that you consume. There's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad content out there, particularly in the yoga world. So find teachers that you can relate to. Find teachers that have a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of understanding. Find teachers who hold and uphold the values and the ethics of the practice as well, and aren't just always trying to sell you something. But yeah, use their content as a source of inspiration, whether they post mini flows, whether they post what they're doing and maybe that's an idea for you to draw from, or whether it is educational stuff about the practice as a whole, not just the asana. So kind of leading on from that, that brings us to number 4, which is educate yourself about what yoga is. My first introduction to yoga was obviously through Instagram, so I just thought it was this postural, contortionist kind of practice. I had no idea about the breathing, I had no idea about the philosophy, I had no idea about the historical sort of context as well until I did my teacher training. So try not to make those same mistakes that I did, because it kind of undervalues the practice. That's what I learned anyway. So go out there, do some research into what yoga is, learn that it's not just this asana practice, that there is compartments of breathing, there is compartments of how you treat others, how you treat yourselves, there's the meditation aspect as well. So even when you're not on your mat practicing postural yoga, you can still be practicing yoga in other ways through those other different means. Google or research the 8 limbs of yoga, that's quite a nice starting point to go with. But also, if you are more wanting to develop your postural, your asana practice, have a look at the wide variety of styles that are out there. There are so many. So just to name a few, you've got Hatha yoga, you've got Ashtanga yoga, you've got Yin, you've got Rocket, you've got Kundalini, you've got Bhakti yoga. So there are so many out there. So have a look and see, read the descriptions of each, see what really sort of like sits with you and what draws your attention in, and then accordingly try find a teacher in your area that does that, or some content online, and just immerse yourself, just practice, just try them all out. And lastly, number 5, just go for it. So this is sort of like the biggest advice I guess that I can give, and sort of like summarizes everything. Try not to limit yourself as a beginner. I don't really like labeling you know, my classes as beginner friendly or intermediate friendly. They should be accessible to everyone, because when you start to limit yourself as just a beginner, you limit your growth, you limit yourself attending perhaps a class that's labeled as intermediate just for like fear or insecurity or whatever it is. But by chucking yourself in the deep end, sometimes that works wonders and you can grow so much from there. Obviously, if that doesn't work out, then just retract, take a step back and take your time to work towards it. But yeah, just go for it at the end of the day. Cool, so I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope that was a little bit helpful. If you wanted any more advice, if you had more questions or suggestions for future videos, let me know, and I will see you next time.